lots of the same questions or types of questions like this come up. So they're often around budget. How do I get budget? How do I get a business case that proves the value of doing business intelligence? We get questions like, everything's taking a bit too long to get IT to provide me with the data I need, or I need to get something from finance and they take weeks to get me the information I need. Team doesn't trust the data. We've got it out there, but people aren't seem to be using it because they don't really get it, they don't really trust it. It's not giving them what they need, and they really want to get some value out of it. It could be about lots of technical training happening. They got the products, they bought the products, they did a project, everyone's got it, they know how to use business objects, but they're still not getting the value. They don't seem to be getting the value, and they don't seem to be getting what they need from it. And then there's this kind of general point about we've got this kind of team in place who are a smart, analytical function, but yet they're spending all of their time manipulating data or creating reports rather than actually getting some value out of them and doing something with the information. So lots of kind of different types of those sorts of questions, but fundamentally there's a kind of a theme going on for over the years about the types of things that we as a professional services business get asked and asked to help organisations with, and I'm seeing some nods, so that's a good start. So what do seminars usually talk about then when trying to kind of give some answers to that? And the last session was one of those, which is some really practical tips about what you can try and make this a bit more effective and your BI a bit more effective. So we get things like aligning BI to strategy, about data warehousing and data modelling. It could be about an agile project methodology or building a business case and an approach to do that. But they're all very practical, and in this organisation, in this room, there are people from all sorts of organisations, and the top 10 tips that could work for one may or may not work for another. So we need to think about this a little bit differently. We need to think about this as something more than a set of steps to walk through, a tick list to tick off to make sure that you're doing things well. We need to think about this as a bit more holistically, a bit more about change, a bit more about how do you adjust your organisation to flex around the changing environment and the changing nature of the business. So this session's a bit different then. This session, kind of a bit of an apology, I guess, isn't going to be scribble down the top 10 things that I say and go back to your organisation and implement them and you'll have a successful BI. So hands up, sorry, that's not what this is about. What this is about, it's about a new way of thinking, a new way of living, breathing, and habitually doing some things that are going to drive value when you start and in a business-as-usual mode. So this BI isn't a project. It's a strategy to help your organisation to use data, use information to effectively improve the business. So it's about changing the way you think, changing the way you approach things. It's about having this set of habits that underpins everything that you do in terms of how you deliver, advise, lead, and implement and support your BI within your organisation. So we call these principles. We used to call them principles, we used to call them pillars, but actually it's a bit more than that. It's about a habit, so we now call these the 5 habits of effective BI, and the rest of this session is going to have a look at these. But before we move on to that, I thought this cartoon summarised it, and I don't know if Gordon's in the room, but he pointed this one out to me, Gordon from itelligence. And when asked, would you rather work for change or just complain, 81% of respondents replied, do I have to pick? This is a bit hard. And this is kind of the nub of it, really. So BI is about changing. You have to have an implementation. You have to have a system. You have to have an initiative that is about driving improvements and driving change. If the information you provide, the reports that you give, don't effectively enable change or enable people to change, there ain't no value. So the 5 habits of effective BI try to ensure that a bit more. So I'll go through each of these in turn. So the 5 habits are, first is about value. It's about understanding the drivers for insight. So truly understanding the value that delivering insight to your organisation can bring. The second is about delivering that value quickly. So once you've identified the value, then need to be conscious of and respect that value and deliver it quickly to the organisation. Don't worry, this isn't all I'm giving you on these, by the way. The third is about driving business engagement, and Rob just touched on it in the last session about adoption, about making sure that this gets used, and I'll obviously come back to that as well. The fourth is about developing capability, critical, and the final is about managing the ownership costs. So I'll go through each of these in turn, so hopefully to help clarify it a little bit more. But fundamentally underpinning all of this is that you can use these habits to drive change. So Paul was talking about this being a change enabler. So we can use these habits to drive change, but also, and even more fundamentally potentially, is that you need to change to drive these habits. And that's a kind of a key point to have a think about as we go through this. So the first, understanding the drivers for insight. So that is effectively about truly understanding and having a thirst for the kind of value that you're going after. So this isn't about who in the organisation shouts loudest for the information they need. This isn't about just delivering a set of reports that the finance function says we need to deliver. This isn't about giving marketing the reports they need because they've shouted the loudest or been the most influential. This is about really and fundamentally driving your what you deliver to the organisation around the drivers. We can package those drivers up under four things. And I was testing earlier when Timo was going through a really insightful and great list of ways people are using business intelligence and rechecking that these four drivers still ring true, and they do, luckily, so my slide still works. So the first of these is about maximising business opportunities. The obvious one. This is about driving revenue. This is about identifying an opportunity that, as a business, you can go after to improve the revenue, improve the customer service, whatever it may be. So the opportunity that you can go after as a business and making sure that you maximise that by understanding it using BI and influencing it using BI. The second is about reducing inefficiencies. So this is about using business intelligence, using analytics to understand how efficient or inefficient your business processes are, and using BI to help you pinpoint where you need to adjust those business processes. So this is about effectively reducing the cost of running the business. So if we get these two right, then we're onto a winner. And if your BI does that, then that's a great thing. The third is about kind of compliance, risk, and governance. So this is about kind of steadying. I talk about this about keeping the ship steady. If that one's about improving, this one's about reducing costs. This one's about kind of keeping it steady. So if you're an insurance business, there's some regulatory requirements that you have to report on. You just have to do that. There's compliance and there's risk within the business. So this is about having insights and creating capability in terms of reporting and data that enables you to manage that more effectively. And the final one is about reducing the total cost of ownership of the IT, of the systems that you put in place. So whilst there is a whole load of value, we need to do that whilst we respect the kind of cost of ownership and not have a whole multitude of different systems, different database technologies, different capability in the business that is actually costing you more to deliver the BI than you necessarily need. And what this can start to do in terms of those questions that we've asked about the kind of benefits case that you can get is start to plot, once we understand, is that grey come up? Yeah. Once you plot, if you like, where you are on these axes, you can start to anchor your organisation about understanding that actually what this BI, this thing that we're delivering is about. In this instance, maybe this is a retailer. It's about absolutely and fundamentally going after the opportunities that are there. It's about reducing the cost of delivering the service and going after those opportunities, and maybe a bit about managing risk and total cost of ownership. I guess on the opposite, the flip side of that, is maybe an insurance business who's right now looking at Solvency II, and that's all it's about. They have to report this, they have to get it done. So in this instance, they're not at the moment looking at trying to implement something, to try and deliver something that maximises opportunities or reduces inefficiencies, but it's all about meeting the regulatory requirements they have to do and doing that in a cost-effective way. Now, over time, you'd expect them to want to move to that. So once they get the fundamentals right, they've got a good data platform in place, they might then want to use that to really exploit and start maximising the business opportunities and efficiencies. So it depends on where you're at, and it makes sure the company that you're delivering to and the organisation and your customers that you're delivering to really fundamentally understand what this is all about and those drivers. So we know the driver. Brits, I know there's more than Brits in the room now, actually, I've just realised, are known for wanting to queue, but does that mean we're happy to wait? And we're not happy to wait. We're not happy to wait for the information. We can't wait for the information. Business changes, politics change, policies change, and fundamentally people change. So what we have to do is respect the insight, the driver for the insight that we've identified earlier. If, as a retailer, we identify that there's potentially £1 million opportunity that we can go after, a business opportunity that we can go after, what we can't do is hide behind a 6-month business intelligence implementation project so that we can get the data to enact and react to that opportunity. We need to find an agile framework to work within that enables us to respond to these opportunities when they come up, and we don't know when they'll come up, and be proactive in terms of identifying and delivering value to the business quickly and often, be proactive about going after those opportunities if we want to create them. The third of these is driving business engagement. So Rob earlier, for those that were in the room, talked about the only way that the kind of our BI implementation that we did internally was successful was about engaging the audience that those reports and that information went to. And without fundamentally driving engagement to what you deliver, this is never going to work. So this isn't just about adoption. So typically in IT projects, we say we must get it adopted. It must be used, and that proves that it's being valued. Actually, change is what proves that it's value. And without driving business engagement throughout your kind of BI initiative and throughout your project, you're not going to get to the point where you can truly do that and utilize it in the most effective way. So driving business engagement can come from a number of ways. So data and technology, we've seen already. So the only reason, really, that we do mobile BI is to engage people with the information at the time they need it and when they want it. So if they have to go back to their desk when they're on the move all the time, so as a sales guy, if there's some sales guys in the room, if they're travelling around, you have to be at your desk to get this information. There's no way you're going to be engaged with that information. So using the data, using the technology to drive engagement to that information so they can really make a difference and really drive change. The second of these is about strategy. So people tend to be more engaged with the information if they understand its relative nature and relative value back to the strategy of the business. So you can use business intelligence, you can use analytics and BI and reports to communicate the message of your strategy and how well you're doing against that. So using the right metrics, using the right measures within your business intelligence really helps to engage people. The third is I guess, kind of the more traditional one about how we engage people within projects, I guess, and that's about evangelizing what you're doing. That's about believing the value that you identified as the driver for insight and telling people about it, whether that's PR internally, whether that's communications, whether that's about branding your BI project as something that sounds cooler, newer, fresher than BI, whether that's analytics. I heard a local council called their budgeting and forecasting solution the Budget Buddy, so it didn't sound like a BPC project that wasn't particularly engaging. So coming up with a way of branding your solution, your project, your deliverable that you're putting out to the business in a way that engages people. And finally, involvement. So if you look at there's a kind of a traditional top 10 reasons why IT projects fail, and the one at the top is always senior involvement. So this is more than that. This is about involving the people that are going to be impacted by the information that you deliver out and engaging them in a way throughout the process from the time you start to understand what the requirement of the business is in terms of insight, all the way through to delivering, testing, implementing this solution, both from a project and business as usual perspective. So involvement throughout is key. It helps to build trust, it helps to build empowerment for those people, and it really gets people engaged in what you're talking about and what you're delivering. So the fourth is about developing capabilities. If you remember, I talked earlier about the questions that come up about, oh, I've bought these products, I've done all the training, it's still not quite hanging together, it's still not quite working. And that's because people often focus on the technology in terms of the training. So people get their people trained up in how to build Webby reports or how to build Excel reports or pivot tables. So it's very technical focused and data and technology centric. And that is very important, that is critical, because people need to be able to self-serve, they need to be able to use the tools that are in place. But actually it's a bit more than that. This needs to be sustainable, and that's both from a technology and business perspective. So it's about creating new ways of doing things. It's about creating approaches that work and that get both IT and the business developed in new capabilities. So yes, we've got technology capability, but do we truly have the business capability to drive change? Do we truly understand what it is we need to do with the information once we get it? Are we skilled in understanding, once I receive the report that says things have got better or worse, of knowing actually what to do with it? And that's more about business change and business capability, not about the products, not about the technology. So the technology and the products enable it, but we need to drive and change the organisation from kind of a top-down to understand how BI can be effective, and also that the people on the ground that are doing BI can truly make a difference with it. And the final thing is about new ways of working. So it's about developing a set of capabilities, putting in place a business intelligence competency centre, for example, that pulls together the various strands of the organisation that have a stake in business intelligence, have a stake in analytics or data, all marching in the same direction, and having a way of working that enables you to both deliver kind of projects, changes, and business as usual activity, and identifying so when someone asks for something in the business, says, I need to be able to report on X, that we understand, is that a small change to what we've already got? That may go through one stream. Is that a significant piece of project work that we need to invest and put a whole project team and a structure and a project manager and a project steering group? Or is it just business as usual reporting that we can just build a report and the business can self-serve? So having a set of ways of working, a new way of delivering and thinking about BI and the technology that can support it, we need to have capability across that within the organisation to make it successful. So the last of the 5 habits of effective BI is about managing the ownership costs. So this has to be financially viable. That's kind of obvious. And whilst we had a total cost of ownership in the driver for insight, not all projects will be about reducing the cost of ownership of business intelligence. So regardless of the driver of insight, we need to be thinking about it in a way that brings together, that reduces overhead, that reduces duplication, so multiple people within the organisation developing, bringing together the same set of information multiple times, because that is a cost to the business, obviously. And this is about reducing the cost of ownership across IT and the business, not just the business, not just the IT, in which the total cost of ownership term normally kind of resonates with. So we need to invest in solutions that help to reduce the amount of time it takes to build, to self-serve, to deliver intelligence out to the organisation. Investing in a set of products that give you all of that, and you don't have pockets of different products that are within the organisation that aren't managed in a way that is focusing on the efficiency of delivering business intelligence, and that's a critical one. So over the last few years, where the big players like the SAPs and the Oracles of the world, the not so niche players, I think I've started calling them now, like ClickViews and Tableaus and Jaspersofts, these sorts of people have come in, and those have sprung up in pockets of organisations. And actually what we need to do as a CIO or a CFO of a business is to make sure that we're doing that really efficiently, and make sure that we've invested in a set of products that can support what we want to do now and in the future. So, wrapping up, actually, I want to allow enough time for lots of questions. I wanted to give it, so I could talk about each of these for probably a couple of hours each. So what I want to do in this is give quite a high-level feel and open to the floor, because I think there's debate about lots of these, and I want to make sure that we pick up on that. So, but I did lie earlier. I said I wasn't going to give you any kind of top tips, practical application of these things, and that was all a kind of way of thinking and a way of habitually delivering business intelligence. So. This isn't a sales pitch, I think, is kind of the conclusion. This isn't about this is how we believe BI should be done. This is kind of proven approach in terms of where people think and believe about business intelligence to really and truly drive value. That we then forget once we start building the system. So BI is not the system. We have to change and react around it, as I said. So there's a few ways we can use this, I guess, from a practical application point of view. So could you have 5 streams of a BI initiative, one constantly looking at the drivers for the insight that we know will change over time. Another stream that looks at delivering the value, so the development team that's delivering the value that we identify through the kind of more strategic stream of identifying what that value is that we want to go after. Do we have a stream of business engagement managers that ensure that what we are delivering, nice and quickly, is out there and that people are using it and that people are engaging with it, and so on? How about assessing your organisation against these? Assessing your organisation in terms of how well these are being implemented, or how well your organisation is performing, I guess, against these habits to try and see, are there gaps? So you may be delivering value really quickly, and that's great, but are you really engaging the organisation? Are you doing that in a cost-effective and financially viable way? So could we do that? And I guess the kind of final one is, if you can't understand that, or you don't see a way of making that happen, talk to us about coming to help identify where potentially are the gaps in being able to do these and habitually living and breathing them. Thank you very much.